Hi guys, it is Taurus season, so it seems to be very appropriate to use this Earth Magic deck. So we are going to have that assist us in the readings. So before we just jump into your readings, just to let you know that I still have the promotions, speed up promotion, meaning you get one level up. So you sign up for a regular reading, you get a rush reading, you sign up for rush, you get urgent, and you sign up for urgent, you get it before you finish typing. Not kidding, you get it in 24 hours. So just go on cattarot.ca and find basically where I have this special list is listed under book your reading. Now, second thing I have, annual taroscopes are still discounted, and like it's only $10 for one sign or $20 for all of the signs. So you can check your Venus sign, you can check your ascendant, you can check your sun sign. I generally like to lurk on the other people's Mars signs to see kind of like how that's going to work out. And lastly, I'm taking applications for the next round of Tarot School, which is starting May the 15th. The first group is running, and I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, such a kind of or Instagram or both, so you get a daily reading, or it's not going to be like a little bit kind of learn about as I initially thought. And 11. I think this is enough for me. So and the next is that's it for my announcement. So guys, hopefully. Hi Sagittarius, and welcome to your May tarot forecast. So I kind of like really enjoy like seeing this like fresh green thing, and this is like definitely the color, especially those of us in the northern hemisphere that will going through spring. And I know you're thinking, if you're in California, Kat, what the hell you're talking about? Well, I'm in Toronto. We actually still don't have the trees. Well, actually I did see the first kind of like buds of leaves showing up, but this is like talking more like about the spiritual growth, and it's talking about the basically process that I think you're going to just give complete birth. You guys didn't have an easy time in the last while, and I think it was sort of like kind of like delivery pains, if you really mind my 2 cents, right? Because I think there's like some kind of like subtle shift happening. There is a little forest right next to where I live, sort of like city forest, if you want to call it, city forest / park, but it is like a little forest like that you can walk just like this, even though they build a little path. And I like to take my camera and take the same spot pictures in all 4 seasons. And it's kind of like really amazing when you kind of like pay attention to one particular leaf, and you see how this leaf actually is living its full lifespan in front of you. And this entire lifespan is to help us actually receive this oxygen and take this like deep breath, right? They're doing this like really generously, especially the forest is like that natural symbiotic relationship, right? We exchange the carbon dioxide for oxygen, because we give them carbon dioxide they need, and they give us oxygen. So even the animals of the forest kind of like participate in this exchange, right? And this is like one of the most remarkable collaborations between plants and animals, and it's helping both sides to live and thrive, talking about cooperation, right? So it's kind of like really interesting, because if you just think how basically that fine balance this is, that exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, right? And something that has been changing possibly recently, and that CO2 is carbon dioxide is like really the thing that is kind of like creating all this kind of like global weather conditions, right? So I really think that this is kind of like a time where, you know, it's time to express our own gratitude, especially because you are the fire sign. You're all about actions. You're kind of like always focused, especially your archer, right? Like, where are you going? But then you're getting this other card, which I really love. You know, it's one of the best cards showing strength. And we have traveled probably many times or driving, and you're seeing this kind of like sidewalk, and you're seeing this, maybe we consider it a weed, whatever it is, coming through. Look what kind of effort and strength should have happened in order for this to happen. Going through it, going through this like challenge of going through the rocks and stones to kind of like emerge and see the light of a day, right? It's kind of like very unashamed and saying, hello, I'm here. It's kind of a thing that most of us humans don't really want to go, because when it's hard, we just like simply give up. And this kind of like is telling me that that maybe you guys will be faced with a difficult situation, and maybe like sometimes we don't have a choice, or maybe we do. It's kind of like we can be either resentful and trying to find somebody to blame for everything that happened to us, or face this and challenge ourselves and grow. You see, this kind of flower, I guess, shows us the way and passion for life that kind of gets out of the difficulty, seemingly situation that was hopeless and dark. And there is like really no point fighting the challenges of life or trying to avoid and deny them. You know, I don't subscribe to that positive thoughts go around and just like babble like I'm in some verses or some things. No, why don't you try to really understand things and understand yourself, understand your own strength, right? So be courageous enough to grow into the flower that you're supposed to and you're meant to be. So let's see, what else do you have over here in your month? Ace of Sea. That's lovely. This is emotionally fresh start. Breath of emotionally new air. Like, did you have there is the cleanse. Your fire, this is water. You are really taking this deep breath over here. Whenever I see breath also, especially these two cards, it's kind of telling me about like mindfulness, peace, meditation. This could be somebody new coming in your life, or you finally will be able to move forward. I think Four of Earth, Ace of Sea, I think you might feel a little bit still playing with your own toys without letting somebody else in. And it's kind of like really nice. Maybe you constructed the life that you're pretty happy with, but wouldn't it be much better if you kind of can re-engage? So maybe you're sitting on the brink. What should I do? But I think emotional healing is there. You have kind of like aura coming to the surface with something that is like new and healing and refreshing. Yeah, this really tells me Sagittarius. We just like miss the arrow and bow. Look at this. The foot is just right there, and you know it's going to be a matter of seconds before it just like, I mean, jumps to where it has to be. It's like talking about that you have been building yourself. You have been building maybe too much of a protection, but you are ready to get out of some kind of like limitations. Probably they were self-imposed. Maybe you were going through a situation that has been hopeless, or even at the very least lethargic. Look at this. It's just like, kind of leave me alone. I don't care. I don't want to know. Go away, kind of a thing. Luckily this is in the past, but this is not a necessarily horrible situation to be. I mean, it could be worse than lying down on the beach and feeling lethargic, right? But the point is like missing out on action in life, which kind of to you being the fire sign probably sounds like horrifying, right? But maybe it was important for you to kind of like come to yourself, because like this is kind of like emotional cycle. It looks like you took some space to stabilize yourself, to take control of something that maybe have been kind of exhausted, maybe disappointing. It could have been a third party involved that excuse me, that render you completely tired. Could be a situation that had like too many elements and it was just like too hard to kind of look into this. This is like definitely emotional reaction. So you're like some fish out of sea when it comes to that one. There we go, more emotions. You're coming back to something that you have probably abandoned. Something was of interest to you to move forward or to move on from the situation, but they're like, I mean, there's like something coming back, or you're going back to something that is tried and true. Maybe you are restarting this new growth and knowing exactly where to go, knowing like exactly what is going to be the buttons that you need to push. My throat is scratching, so that means you probably have issues with expressing yourself, or you had this issue, and instead of expressing yourself, you maybe just like climb up and you just decide that's it, world, like I'm closed for now. But somewhere deep inside you have this instinct of an archer, and you have this instinct that there is a time to start moving forward, and you're going to move forward with it. Gives me this kind of whole feeling that you know, when you go to the houses of the elderly, and they have all these pictures of them in their youth, very vibrant, and you like look at them like, what happened? Right? Or, you know, it's in your head, you still have this picture of who you really are. The essence is really important, but you definitely didn't give projection of that on the outside. Your vibrations are still very low. Something really swept you off your feet, but not in a good way, right? This is like grounding. This is being reliable. This is like kind of like paying attention to your work, paying attention to the enjoyment of the finer things in life, kind of really feeling stabilized. This is like one of these kings that do enjoy kind of like food and wine and buying themselves like, I mean, really nice stuff, but they also work equally hard and they're always on the plus and plus. So you might be really also getting a promotion. You might be also realizing that there are other people around that just like by sort of closing yourself to you and your own toys and the own stuff that you buy for yourself has no meaning unless you actually do interact and you contribute yourself. So that jumping part is still there, like you're thinking about all these different directions. Don't be foolish though. Maybe you think that going in a new situation is foolish. You have the cat. This card is basically talking about turning a new leaf, turning, just like I said here, like it's kind of like the spring is in the air feeling of the cards. It's a spiritual kind of like rebirth. Here it's saying that, yeah, sure, the new beginning is there, but you are like really hesitant. You looks like you are really burnt over here, and kind of like it's really hard for you to say, okay, I am jumping in. Watch me, I am jumping in. This kind of like says also, sometimes when you engage, you will engage with too many things, and hence the results are not going to really be there. It could be just simply that you don't want to be, for example, in a relationship, or that you still want to give yourself some extra time. You kind of like want to acclimate yourself to the environment, and hence this is kind of like very destabilizing, almost kind of foolish, or you might do a few things that might not be in your best interest. So we are going to check that. There is like Three of Sky, and what could go wrong in this picture? Look at this one. Look at this. You know, the cats have this like amazing ability. Imagine if humans were cats, and then we would just like, oh, look at the yarn, flick, look at the feather, flick, right? off you go, the vase, right? It is just amazing how these objects in a way mean nothing to them, right? Everything is just like simply falling off. And look at the damage basically caused. So this card is in your environment. There is something around you, connected to you, that talks about damage, talks about possibly feeling rejected, or maybe somebody else feels rejected, somebody else feels the sharp edge, or you are on the receiving end of that sharp edge, right? And that kind of would make sense. This card also is a husband card as well. But then it wouldn't be a new beginning. Maybe you had issues with your spouse, and it might be something kind of like new, fresh path. Something didn't grow before, and now it's growing. You're able sort of like have that, you know, as I was saying, oxygen, carbon dioxide balance or imbalance. It's the same as a relationship. Sometimes it feels suffocating. You're not getting enough oxygen in it, right? So this is like exactly what's happening, because there has been some stuff. You almost looks like you want to move forward, but you keep coming back to certain things, and coming back is always a foolish decision over here. And you kind of like start feeling that way, that you're spinning in this whole process, and maybe you feel being lost in the process. Let's see hopes and fears. You have sea kitten. Yeah, definitely you guys, I think you're ready for a new relationship. I really do. You know how stingy I am usually with making these determinations. I mean, I really think this is kind of like talking about you solidifying and kind of like raising your vibrations, because your vibrations are much lower than your regular vibrations. That's what I said. You kind of like see yourself as, yeah, I can do that, I can do that, but you are not doing it because simply you're just like simply exhausted over something that has happened, possibly, you know, a result of some outer influences as well. But you're kind of stabilizing yourself. You're saying like, first thing first, let's check what I'm doing, what I'm putting on my table. Maybe this also means kind of like checking into your fitness habits and your diet habits. Sea kitten and Ace of Sea is kind of like flirting, not necessarily jumping in. It's kind of like you stay in the line for food somewhere, and there is like somebody you just like strike a conversation with. It's getting that loving feeling kind of like back, right? Getting a groove back. And then kind of Earth is interestingly, because it's a family card. It could be that for some of you it's simply going to be really maybe you had marital difficulties, maybe you had relationship difficulties, and it was a really rough patch that, you know, as I said, it felt, you know, not having enough oxygen. Courage card is also the card of commitment. Maybe the commitment is renewed. Maybe you're ready to go to the next phase of something. The interesting thing is that all the cards but these two are upright, so it's kind of like a very optimistic approach. But this one reversed is actually saying coming back to some kind of emotional issues that have been exhausting in the past, and you just like simply couldn't handle them. This is talking about dedication to the family. This is talking about, you know, finding your spot under the sky. Kind of things are going to feel comfortable, but you're going to feel comfortable at a completely different level, not on a Sagittarius level. I gotta do this, it's sort of like go career or something. No, it's more or less is going to be cleanse, emotional, kind of like feeling, almost like feeling a little kind of like fluttering of a heart, kind of like innocence. Innocence is really important because we get so poisoned with everything that kind of like flies our way. And ground, you're having the Earth King, who is reliable, who really you know, doesn't have rough edges. So it's kind of like really important. Like this is a really good combination. So you're either guys refreshing your vows, And vows are very important. We make them because they actually mean something. Otherwise, like, it's just like, I mean, you know, line in the sand, sort of like writing in the sand, better to say, right? If they don't mean anything, what's the even point of like, I mean, sand castles was never a good idea for me. Like, I see no point of all this trouble just to be wiped away. So vows are not like this, and this is like what this king is saying. Look, if I'm saying this, I'm saying that I'm committing myself to you. And yes, I know it's going to be really hard. I know it's going to be dark spots at some point, but eventually there is something going out as a result of it. So it's going to be really interesting, guys. You will have a really good month. I want to say this. Why are you here? Foolish. That's the only thing. Emotionally, maybe emotionally you're not fully how to say, matured over the situation that has happened, and maybe it's you're still kind of exhausted, but there's still kind of like, interestingly, motion, hopefully, to go in a new, fresh direction. Also, the cat talks about losing the baggage, but it didn't turn entirely, so that's what I want to see. Why is the Fool or the cat here for Saggies? Oh my god, I had the same two cards, and I don't remember for who, but just in the other in other order. Here we have the room and a child. So as I said, for some reason it keeps coming back to me. There is like something about steady relationships. Mind you, if you guys are single, I really think you'll be flirting. But I really think that you'll be flirting, but with an eye to something for long term. You're not going to just jump into anything, because it looks like there were some kind of lessons learned. But if you were in a relationship that had a little bit kind of like turbulence, I think intimacy in this relationship is the key. And I think relationship existed on the base of children. I'm here for the children, sort of a thing. And maybe this is why this is reversed. It's saying this is not the right path. This is not the right way to do. You know how people stay married because of children? I mean, there are two schools of thought saying don't disturb children, but there's another one. Do you really want them to see, especially if parents are arguing, and be subject to that sort of like almost abusive situation? There is some kind of like wrong reasoning here. It's like definitely warning you to do things for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons. Let me see this, the environment here. What is that here for Sagittarians? Yeah, are you guys maybe, excuse me, getting divorced? Because look at this, there's somebody's hurt about love, and you have love and wedding, something happened. You know, but this also could mean that you maybe been through divorce, that you maybe been through some kind of like huge emotional upheaval, that you are the one who is basically pointed finger at, blaming. So I almost envision one more situation that I failed to see before, that maybe that was like sort of like we have to kind of separate, and hence this new growth is happening. Maybe, you know, after we separate or even divorce, we go through the stage which is like dark, which is like a dark tunnel, and you don't know if ever you're going to hit the light, and hence you're really watching yourself from everything. And kind of like now for you, you kind of like did resolve some of the issues. The others are still a matter of the little finesse, nothing really important. But it looks like you're finally stabilized. You're finally bursting out from probably cocoon that happened. And that's why probably vibrations is much lower than you are, and you kind of like simply have to be grounded. It looks like for you the way out was like what I do on daily basis. Take the food, take the dog out, walk the dog, pet the cat, eat properly, and like, you know, this kind of like certain things are putting in motion. So you're still not the old Sag, I would say, but I can see that there is like some kind of like, I guess, either the blame, but it's kind of confusing. It almost looks like that some of you will commit or recommit, but the others are going to find possibly a new level of relationship and new way of how this is done, because sea kitten can actually also talk about the children as well. So it's sort of like almost like finding a new kind of like role in your children's life where you're committing to that and you're committing to their well-being. So Saggies, this is general reading. Please contact me for yours, cattarot.ca. And I would also appreciate if you subscribe, share, and like. And for in between the readings, join my Instagram and Facebook. And I love you. Have a great month.